You probably already have most of the answers to your next RFI somewhere in the company. The difficult part is finding the right version, checking that it is still current, getting the right people to review it, and returning everything in the format buyer asked for. That is where RFI response software comes in. In this video, we will look at what these tools actually do, where AI is useful, and what to test before you choose one. I'm Snehal, this is One More RFP. If you work in sales, pre-sales or proposal, by the end of this video, you should have a clear idea of what RFI response software is and what a good workflow looks like, which is features are worth paying to attention and how to compare the main platform on a real RFI. A request for information or RFI usually comes early before the buyer moves deeper into the sales process, and it's worth being clear on how RFI is different from an RFP. An RFI is a buyer gathering early information to shortlist vendor. An RFP comes later when they want a detailed proposal and pricing. RFI response software is built from early stage. So what does it actually do? In plain terms, it helps your team pull trusted company information into one place, draft an accurate first response, route it to review, and then send it back to the buyer's format. The key part is that it connects those four steps so the work does not scatter across different tools. You're not searching in one place, drafting in another, and chasing approval somewhere else, and then stitching it all back together at the end. AI can speed up the search, the first draft, but the real value is the full response process around the draft. And because an RFI can decide whether you even reach the next stage, getting the right early in the deal really matters. Say a buyer asks about your security control. Your company has probably answered something similar before, but the latest answer might be in the security policy, while somebody else is looking at an older response from a previous RFI. Now add product questions, legal questions, pricing information, and a buyer spreadsheet that needs to come back in the same structure. That is where the time starts disappearing. Not because the team cannot write, it is because people are trying to answer 4 questions at once. Where is the right information? Is it still correct? Who needs to approve it? And how far it needs to go back to the buyer? That is why the deck describes the platform as search, proof, coordination, and formatting under deadline pressure. Those are the parts that a software should make things easier. Rather than memorizing a list of features, think about what your team should stop doing manually. You should not have to rebuild every buyer questionnaire before anyone can work on it. You should not have to search through old responses every time a familiar questions appear. And your security or product team should not have to recreate an answer the company has already approved. A good platform handles that repeatable work for you and sends only the question that need real judgment to the right person. So instead of, does anyone know where we answered this before, you want the conversation to become, here is the approved answer and the source. Does anything else need to change for this buyer? This is the practical difference. Once the RFI arrives, the first job is getting the request organized. Then you find the strongest approved information available, and only then you draft from it. And that order matters. You want source first, answer second. Because if the team gets a polished response and then has to work backward to check whether the source supports it, the process has not really become simpler. Once the draft is there, the questions that are sensitive, unclear, or incomplete go to the right reviewer. Security owns security, legal owns legal. Technical commitment goes to an appropriate expert. Then after approval, the response goes back in the format the buyer expects. The software speeds up the repeatable work. People still owns the promises being made for the buyer. This is where AI is most useful. Work the team has already done before. If the company has approved information that answer the question, AI should help find it. If that information can become a useful first draft, AI should help create it. And if the evidence is missing or two sources conflict, the system should flag it instead of presenting the answer as a finished one. The last part is important. Generating text quickly is not particularly useful if a reviewer still has to check every answer from the scratch. The better outcome is that product, security, legal and other experts spend their time on exceptions and buyer-specific decision rather than a repeated question. So the role of AI here is completely straightforward. Find the relevant information, draft it, flag the issue, and unnecessary review work. When you get into vendor demos, I would separate the basics from the things that really affects how much work your team is left with. Importing buyer's file, searching company content, creating first drafts, assigning reviewers, exporting responses, permissions and audit control all matters. Confirm that basics work for your process. Then you can move on. The more useful questions are, can the system tell when two answers conflict? Can it tell which information is correct? And if the original source changes, can that change flow into the content being used for future responses? Can a reviewer see where an answer came from? And the system can use that information about the buyer or opportunity when choosing how to respond. A couple of terms here are worth translating. Content governance simply means knowing which information is correct, trusted, and approved. And the AI agent in this context means the software can handle several parts of the response workflow rather than helping one isolated question at a time. So do not make "does it have an AI" your main buying question. Ask, what work does an AI handle? And what work is still left for my team to do? That is more useful way to compare whether the platform is actually useful. There are 6 examples in this guide. They do not all approach response work in exactly the same way. Loopio is known for its answer library, content governance, and established response workflow. Responsive combines enterprise response management with AI agent, requirements handling, content workflow, and broad integration. Inventive AI is an autonomous AI agentic platform. Its agent reads the RFI, retrieved approved company knowledge, draft answers with citation and a confidence score, and flags the gap for people to approve. ShiftHub focuses on source-grounded answers, reviewers, routing, and pre-sale context. AutoRFP.ai focuses on cited first draft, trust scoring, collaboration, and lighter weight project management. And RFI focuses on AI agent workflows, synced sources, reasoning visibility, and collaboration. Those descriptions can help you build a shortlist. They should not make the final decision for you. Before you choose a platform, be clear about what is slowing your current process down. If the team spend most of the time finding answer, test search and source access. If old answers keep coming back, test freshness and content governance. If security or legal reviews are the bottleneck, test ownership and review workflow. If the last part of every RFI spent fixing files, test the export properly. Once you know the platform, shortlist 2 or 3 tools. Then give them a real RFI from your own team. Use the same company sources and the same reviewers, and look at what happened. How quickly did you get a usable first draft? Could receiver verify the sources? How much rewriting was left? Did the final file come back correctly? And how much reviewer effort did the process still need? That's the test I would use before buying. One real RFI will tell you how much more comparing feature lists. So what is RFI response software? It is the system that turns scattered company knowledge into an accurate, reviewed RFI response. So your team isn't rebuilding the same answer every time. AI can make parts of that process faster, but the right platform depends on where your own RFI workflow is creating the most work. Find the problem first, then test 2 or 3 options against the same RFI. If it was useful, subscribe to One More RFP for more practical RFP, RFI and proposal workflow breakdown. And let us know in the comment section where your RFI processes slows down today. I'll see you in the next one.